URC power ranking, folks, for round number 9. We're in this weird point of the year where the tests are done. URC got underway last week, which I don't really see because there were still South Africa and England playing, and Wales was still playing the Aussies. And then there was this week just gone, which is kind of where we're at, round 9. And then we got European Rugby Champions Cup coming next week. So you get a wee sprinkling of URC, just enough to remind myself where the season is at and what's going on before we take another break from it. But anyway, we're going to go through the rankings. I haven't seen that much of the competition this week, to be honest. My son had his birthday over the weekend, so I did ask him, if you could have any rugby gear for your birthday, what team would you like? And he said Blues. I'm getting to him, folks. And then he's like, no, actually, maybe Stormers. So I'm slowly getting him away from that Stormers allegiance. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, we'll go through it, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. No surprises that Zebre are still in 16th. That's where they were when we had power rankings way back before the November tests. They're 9 from 9. They lost to Ulster in Glasgow, away and home. I mean, Pierre Bruno got another try at the weekend, so at least that's one bright spot. But sadly for Zebre, after some initial kind of decent-looking games at the start of the season, which they didn't win, it's kind of back to familiar winless territory for them. The Scarlets are in 15th. And, 2 losses down in South Africa, Stormers and Lions. Some pretty bad missed tackles at times from the Scarlets guys, to be honest. So, I don't know what to say. I mean, they lost 32-15 to the Lions in their most recent one, which is not a close finish, is it? It's not going the Scarlets' way this season. Neither is it going the way of the Ospreys, although at least the Ospreys game, to be honest, was kind of close for a long time, and then they lost it at the end against the Sharks in the last couple of minutes. I mean, it's 2 losses on tour for them of South Africa as well. I mean, all the Welsh teams had 2-game tours of South Africa, so not the easiest resumption to the URC these couple of weeks for the Welsh teams. 6-0 down at halftime, then 6-5 down, and then it was like, 11-10 with a few minutes to go, and then they kind of got done with a couple of late tries. So maybe looks a bit worse than it was for the Ospreys, but they are still 1 win, 6 losses, and 2 draws, which is kind of hard reading. And then there's the Dragons. So 3 of the bottom 4 teams, sadly, are the Welsh sides. And as I said, these 3 sides all went none from 2 in the last 2 weeks in South Africa. So it's Lions and Stormers for the Dragons. Another one that's a bit of a bright spot is you're down to the Stormers like 28-0. If you're the Dragons, and they at least managed to finish like 34-26. So, yeah, it's like small comforts that it could have been a lot worse. They did score one really nice try through JJ Hanrahan with some kind of just mental offloads and whatnot. It was some nice stuff, and I seem to remember Dragons most of last season were here. So Dragons are putting in some better performances, I think, than last year. Whereas maybe for the Scarlets and the Ospreys, I seem to remember they just missed out on the kind of top half of the table stuff last year. So it seems to be 2 teams taking a step back and 1 team maybe taking a step forward. Or is it that these 2 sides have fallen behind where the Dragons are at? I don't know. I mean, Dragons are 3-6. So again, not like the most fabulous record you'll ever see. Next row, we've got Benetton. Benetton have had a mixed couple of weeks. They did manage to pick up a win over Edinburgh at home, and then they lost to Connacht away. They got a red card in that game, so obviously didn't help. But, 38-19, pretty comfortably beaten, sadly. A few of these teams have picked up players, I think, from Wasps and any of the Worcester guys going to the URC club. So, yeah, we are seeing a few names kind of doddering around, but 4 and 5. A lot of teams on 4 and 5, actually. Benetton is 1. Edinburgh is another. Edinburgh, goodness gracious me, what happened at the weekend? I didn't watch that game, but I picked Edinburgh because their home is supposed to be a fortress. Edinburgh is not supposed to get beaten 38-17 at home. Especially against a Munster side, which is seemingly right now kind of resurgent. But up until this point, the URC season have been pretty awful. So, they lost to Benetton, they lost to Munster. They had a 12-0 lead against Munster and still ended up getting kind of well beaten. So, yeah, not the best for the Edinburgh guys. Interestingly, we've got our first South African team here, the Sharks in 10th. The Sharks have had a bit of turmoil going on in the back room with some changing of personnel. They obviously lost to Cardiff the other week. It was like 35-0, admittedly without their Springbok players. And then a bit of changing going on in the background, like I said. And then some big guns back at the weekend, facing a kind of lowly Ospreys side. And as I mentioned, they beat them. They beat them 25-10, which seems comfortable without being phenomenal. But, at 76 minutes, it was 11 points to 10. So really, really kind of unconvincing. They get a try through Kerr and Bosch and then another one through the forwards right at the death to kind of flatter them a little bit. But, seemingly not all that happy in Sharks country. I know they've got a few guys to come back along with the guys that just came back this week. But still, a little bit troubling. And then Cardiff. Cardiff have kind of been a bit of a bright spot for the Welsh sides. They're the only one of the Welsh sides on this tour of South Africa that didn't go none from two. As I said, they beat the Sharks. So that was the week before. But this week they 45-9, kind of back down to earth with a bit of a hiding against the Bulls at Loftus. It was 10-9 just before halftime. And then the Bulls just went on the rampage, sadly for them. Some guys in the second half really just showed us some skills. So, as I said, Cardiff, 5-4. I got them on the top of the Welsh sides. And as I said, they're the only side that went to South Africa and picked up anything other than a loss. So, it's certainly not all doom and gloom for Cardiff. Right, top half. Got Connacht here in 8th. Connacht are another one who had a mixed kind of couple of weeks with a loss to Munster away and then a win at home to Benetton. So, I mentioned Benetton got a red card in that game. I mean, the moment of that game is the Niall Murray try. Goodness gracious me, that guy's a big lock and he was just galloping. He's got some wheels, man. Unbelievable. There was some distance on that try that he got. If you have not seen it, well worth checking out. Just like the 2-minute highlight package of Connacht against Benetton, because that is something you don't really see that often. He's got some proper gas for a big human being with some long legs. He's like a giraffe, man. Really, really crazy stuff. So Connacht, 4 and 5, as I mentioned, bit of a mixed bag, but still I think kind of looking positive. Glasgow are another one of the sides that are a bit of a mixed bag. They lost to Leinster pretty badly, and it was a Leinster seemingly kind of young side a couple of weeks ago, and then they won away at Zebre. So they ended up with a bonus point. Was still pretty tight, about 45 minutes, but Glasgow did kind of manage to push away at the end. But Glasgow, I guess kind of like Connacht, are a bit up and down. I think they're like 50-50 with their record, so just a bit of a mixed bag side. You don't really know what you're going to get. So I guess it's better than being predictably poor, but there you go, nothing too flash. But, flash, Munster. Munster seemed to be getting it right. At last. The start of the season was pretty dire, wasn't it? Yeah, but an away win over Edinburgh and a home win at Connacht the last couple of weeks, they can play with some really quick ball. I know Carberry gave away a try in that Edinburgh game when he chucked an intercept pass, but I think he made up for it. He scored a try of his own, and he had a hand in a few of the other moves. Like when Munster were getting that quick ball going, it wasn't just about maul tries. They were getting some real quick ball, and it was quite pleasing on the eye. So Munster, maybe, at last, seemed to be clicking. I'm very pleased for them. I've certainly got them up in the power rankings to where they were prior to the November internationals. Lions I've got here in 5th. The Lions are another one with a bit of a mixed bag record. 5-3, so it's still in positive territory. Inflated a little bit with the 2 wins over the kind of lowly ranked Welsh side. So they beat the Dragons and the Scarlets. So, as I said, not sides with phenomenal winning records. They've got a great scrum. And they got some good players in old Raz Makwane. He's a talent. And Emmanuel Chituka, goodness me, big unit. Off the back of that scrum as well. Scored, I think he got a double, didn't he? Lions. Very, very pleasing. It's nice to see some good rugby being played in Joburg. It sucks that the camera at Joburg is always facing the sunny side and everyone seems to sit in the shade. So it always looks like the stadium is empty. like genuinely quite empty. I know it's like not a phenomenal crowd either way, but I think it's better than it looks at first glance anyway. That's the problem with the cavernous stadiums that you've got in South Africa and that we have in New Zealand. Like the Blues playing in front of 10,000 fans at Eden Park just looks like nobody's there because it's a 50,000 seat stadium. So yeah, that's just by the by. Fourth spot, Ulster. Ulster, you had a chance, man. I'm still kind of burned about that result for Ulster. I mean, as much as I was like genuinely blown away by the way Leinster came back in that game, Ulster, like there's a certain saying about, you know, something in the bed, right? Ulster, yeah, in the bed, man. The bed. Goodness me, they had a big lead. They had an extra man. And they capitulated. Admittedly at the RDS. Admittedly against Leinster, you know, top side, and the crowd were really getting on their backs, but goodness gracious me. So yeah, they beat Zebre, and then they lost away to Leinster. If you'd just said lost away to Leinster and you didn't look at the game, you'd be like, that's kind of predictable. You know, Leinster's a tough side to get a win away from home. Leinster haven't lost any games, let alone at home this season. Ulster put themselves in about as good position as you can, and then threw it all away. Don't mean to say that like Leinster had nothing to do with it, because Leinster had a lot to do with it, but you know what I mean. Stormers, third spot for the Stormers. 6 wins, a loss, and a draw is their record. Again, a couple of wins over the Welsh sides gets them up. Really pleasing at the weekend, watching Joseph Dweba score a maul try, and the Stormers lineup was pretty impeccable. I think one went awry. I think it was like 15 from 16 or something. Top stuff. Dweba had some pretty high-profile line-out errors at test level recently, but nah, man, at the weekend it was phenomenal. Marty Libak scores an absolute wonder try. I guess a bit concerning for the Stormers, like they had the Dragons dead and buried, and then absolutely let them kind of back into the game. So, not all pleasing, but still a pretty big win. The Bulls have gotten second. The Bulls are like 7-2, so it's looking pretty big win. 45-9 over Cardiff. Again, they're another team who got a couple of wins over the Welsh sides in the last couple of weeks. Norkia looked great. Moody looked great. Aronson looked great. Yeah, some real skilled players in that Bulls side. So I would like to see them up against these guys, Leinster, because Leinster, their comeback win over Ulster was just the stuff of legend, man. A man down after 20 minutes when Ken Healy gets red carded. What was it? 22, 3 points behind. And they just absolutely bossed the game in the second half. Ringrose was on fire. Ryan Baird and James Lowe and just, goodness me. All these guys. Andrew Porter coming off the bench. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal stuff. 38-29. 9 from 9 are Leinster this year. So they're still chasing another star on that jersey. But yeah, there we go. That's the power rankings for the URC for round 9. As I said, just trying to get my head around getting back into the URC before we take a break from it. But Champions Cup is always a bit of a welcome thing, and it'll be a new thing for South African fans. So yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Which teams are doing it a bit harsh and which teams are kind of overranked. A lot of teams in around that 4-5, 5-4 win-loss record region, so it's kind of crowded in the middle, but certainly I think the cream is kind of rising to the top, and there's a few sides who are looking to be in a fair bit of trouble. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.